My full sister and I fought over Wei Hong for 10 long years. In my first life, I finally got my wish and married him. After the wedding, everyone said Wei Hong was madly in love with me. They said that was why, in just 7 years, I gave birth to 6 sons. But when I was giving birth to the 7th, he chose the child over me. He waved the physicians away and personally forced 3 bowls of deadly poison down my throat. Only at the very end, when my life was slipping away, did he finally tell me the truth. The one I wanted to marry back then was never you. You were the one who was eager, so you deserved to be nothing more than a birthing tool. Now that there are enough children, you have no value left. I died, filled with hatred. In my second life, I pushed the marriage proposal to my sister. "You go," I said. "It's you he loves." I thought this time everyone would finally be happy. But 5 years later, a maidservant returned home carrying a large water vat. Inside it was my sister. Her limbs had been severed. Her arms and legs were gone. Even her eyes had been taken. Yet her voice was still clear. She wailed at me through tears. "Sister, Wei Hong doesn't love me at all. It wasn't me he wanted to marry. He said the only thing I had was my voice, so he made me sing for him day and night. If I complained even once, he tortured me. Last night, he said he was tired of my songs. If my maid hadn't risked her life, I wouldn't have made it back." Her injuries were too severe. She died less than 2 months after returning home. When I opened my eyes again, it was my third life. The marriage proposal from the Wei family lay before us. My sister and I stared at it in disbelief. Who did this man actually want to marry? The proposal carried no name. Even my mother was confused. She asked cautiously, "Is the young Marquis asking for King Sai's hand?" "I am Shen King Sai." Because Wei Han and I were childhood sweethearts, everyone believed we were a match made in heaven. I used to believe that too. But now, I understood. He was never the one in his heart. While I was lost in thought, Wei Hong nodded calmly. "Acceptable." My mother frowned. "Young Marquis, you may answer yes or no. What does acceptable mean?" He replied evenly, "I find it acceptable to marry King Sai." That was when I finally came back to my senses. "I refuse," I said without hesitation. "I will not marry him." The nightmare of my first life was carved deep into my soul. Back then, he had answered the same way, and I mistook it for shyness, for love. Afraid of embarrassing him, I urged my mother to agree. For 8 years after marrying into the Wei family, nothing seemed wrong. Except one thing. I was constantly pregnant. Wei Hong would coax me gently. "I love children," he said. "I want the Marquis Manor to be full of life." He never gave me time to recover. The moment my postpartum period ended, he started again. 6 sons in 7 years. The capital went from praising my fertility to envying our so-called passionate love. Even I believed it, until the winter of the 8th year. After giving birth to my 7th son, I suffered a massive postpartum hemorrhage. The physicians tried desperately to save me, but Wei Hong waved them away. Then he forced poison down my throat with his own hands. As I lay dying, he finally told me the truth. "King Sai, I don't love you. You were the one eager to marry me, so I simply didn't want to defy fate. 7 children are enough. You, this birthing tool, have no value left." My heart shattered. Through unbearable pain, I begged him for answers. He hesitated, then said, "Fine, I'll tell you. The one I truly love is your—" I died before hearing the rest. The memory made my body tremble, but my mind was clear. I hardened my voice and said, "Mother, I will not marry him." My mother was stunned. "King Sai, didn't you say you would marry no one but the young marquis?" I shook my head. "Those were foolish words from my youth. They don't count. I already have someone in my heart. He will come to propose soon." My mother turned pale, then furious. She turned apologetically to Wei Hong. "There is nothing I can do if King Sai is unwilling. How about King Yin?" King Yin froze. "Mother, I won't marry him either. I also have someone in my heart." Seeing neither daughter willing, my mother returned the proposal. Wei Hong finally lost his composure. "No," he snapped quickly. "The person I marry must come from your family." He slammed the proposal down. "I'll give you 3 days. If you can't decide, I'll draw lots and request an imperial decree." After he left, panic filled the room. We told our mother everything, about all 3 lives. She cried until her sleeves were soaked. What mother wouldn't break hearing one daughter poisoned to death and the other turned into a living corpse? But then, who does he truly love? Neither my sister or I had an answer, so we split up. Mother searched for possible husbands, King Yin investigated every woman in the household, and I went to test Wei Hong myself. When I saw him again, he was painting a woman without a face. He smiled gently. "Can't you tell I'm painting you?" Pain stabbed my heart. In my past life, he always painted faceless women and said no brush could capture my beauty. I believed him, but now I finally noticed the truth. The woman in the painting had a small mole on the right side of her neck. I didn't. I dropped all pretense and went straight to the point. "Wei Hong," I said calmly, "this isn't me, is it? I don't have a mole on the right side of my neck." His back stiffened, a rare sight. When he finally recovered, he looked at me and asked quietly, "King Sai, do you really want to know who she is?" I held my breath, waiting for his next words. But instead, he changed the subject. "Silly girl," he said with a gentle smile. "It really is you. That mark on the neck isn't a mole, just a stray drop of ink. You know how I've treated you since childhood, don't you?" For a moment, I was speechless. Wei Hong had indeed treated me well. The old marquis and my father were close friends. We had grown up together, inseparable. As a child, I was playful and hated studying. I often slipped out of lessons. Every time my parents were about to punish me, Wei Hong would rush over to shield me. He promised he would personally teach me everything I had missed, and he kept that promise. He stayed up late tutoring me, even secretly studying the precepts for women so he could explain them to me. I once teased him, a 7-foot man studying such things. He only sighed. "I'm afraid you'll be criticized in the future." At that moment, a strange warmth bloomed in my heart. That was when I first thought it would be wonderful to marry him. For his sake, I reined in my wild nature. I became obedient. I became the perfect noble lady. Standing beside him, I constantly heard people praise us as a match made in heaven. Even the Empress favored me, repeatedly reminding him to treat me well. And he did. When I fell ill, he stayed by my side day and night, personally brewing my medicine. When others bullied me, he was always the first to step forward, no matter who they were. For our wedding, he prepared a dowry that stretched for miles, saying he never wanted anyone to look down on me. Such a man. I truly couldn't understand when he had changed. Bitterness rose in my throat, pulling me back to the present. I rubbed my nose and asked in a muffled voice, "Wei Hong, if you truly have me in your heart, why didn't you write my name clearly on the proposal?" He was slightly taken aback. "King Sai, You and King Yin have fought over me for years. The whole city knows. I didn't write a name because I didn't want to hurt her pride. She's your sister, after all. I thought if you accepted first, she would feel better. I never expected you to misunderstand me and reject it in anger. In truth, we both knew King Yin didn't love him that deeply. What she loved was competing with me. As children, she fought me for food, clothes, and our parents' affections. Later, she began to fight for the man I liked. My silence made Wei Hong think he was wavering. He pressed on. So, King Sai, I've made up my mind. The person I've always wanted to marry is you. In 3 days, I'll come to propose properly. No more confusion. Will you forgive me this once? After we're married, I'll make your favorite lotus seed cakes. The next day, King Yan and my mother personally escorted the bride, her face hidden beneath a crimson veil, into the bridal sedan. Wei Hung forced a smile as he bade my mother farewell, casting one final glance at the Shen manor before leaving. His eyes were filled with restrained longing and pain. I curled my lips into a cold smile. Wei Hong, don't be sad. In this life, you finally married the person you loved the most, yet could never openly choose. The following morning, King Yan and I went out to purchase jewelry for our upcoming weddings. Halfway there, fatigue overtook me, and I rested at a small tea stall while waiting for her. Suddenly, 2 fierce-looking men appeared. Without a word, they covered my mouth and dragged me away. I struggled desperately, but irritated by my resistance, they struck me unconscious. When I opened my eyes again, I was inside the Wei manor. Wei Hung sat alone on the wedding bed, his gaze blazing with fury. His voice was colder than winter ice. Shen King Yai, explain yourself. Though I had anticipated this confrontation, the intensity of his stare made my scalp prickle. Still, I forced myself to remain calm. Explain what, young Marquis? You proposed without specifying a name, so tell me, why should it matter who married you? Before I could finish, Wei Hong crossed the room in 3 strides and slammed me against the door. His eyes were bloodshot, his expression savage. No matter how angry you are, you should never joke about marriage. Switching the bride on the wedding night? Was humiliating me really that amusing to you? I inhaled sharply, catching the lingering scent in the room. My gaze drifted to the disheveled bed, and I laughed coldly. From the looks of it, young Marquis, you seem to enjoy yourself quite well. Wei Hung stiffened. Guilt flashed across his face before he hurriedly defended himself. The candles burned out last night. It was pitch dark. How was I supposed to know the bride had been switched? I scoffed. This room is filled with the fragrance of lotus. That must be the new bride's perfume. You've known me for years. Surely you know I detest that scent. Let's be honest. It's not that you didn't know the bride was changed. It's that you found her satisfactory. He froze. Before he could speak, the guilt in his eyes had already confessed. I shoved him away. Since you're so satisfied, stop pestering me. Live well with your new bride. I turned to leave, desperate to escape that suffocating place, but Wei Hong grabbed my arm again. His tone was domineering, unyielding. You must stay. You'll serve tea with me shortly, and we'll pretend it was you who married me. For a moment, I was stunned. Then I laughed bitterly. Only you could come up with something so absurd. Setting aside whether I'd ever agree, what about the woman who spent the night with you? Pain flickered through his eyes. I am wronging her, but if the truth comes out, the Wei family will lose all dignity. The main wife position must remain yours. As for her, I will compensate her later. At that moment, I finally understood. The person Wei Hung loved most had never been anyone else. It had always been himself. Just as I was about to refuse, the old Marquess and the Marquess entered the courtyard. The Marquess took my hand affectionately. King Yai, you must be exhausted. I knew you wouldn't manage to rise early, so I came myself. She smoothed my disheveled hair, smiling warmly. "This is wonderful. We've waited so long for this day. You're finally my daughter-in-law." I gently withdrew my hand and stepped back, creating distance. I curtsied politely, my tone calm but firm. "My lord, my lady, you are mistaken. I am not your daughter-in-law." "Shen King Yai!" Wei Hong roared. The Marquis and the Marquess exchanged stunned looks. The Marquess forced an awkward laugh. "Oh, young couples fight. It's normal. You're husband and wife now. There's nothing you can't work through." As she attempted to pull the Marquis away, I stopped them. "I am not speaking out of anger. Last night, I was dining at my home with Grand Secretary Lin and his wife. If you doubt me, you may ask him yourselves." They stood frozen in shock. A quiet storm had finally broken, and this time there was no turning back. Activity in the bridal chamber all night. If it wasn't you, then who was Wei Hong with? I raised my eyebrow at Wei Hong. "Young Marquis, you'd better confess. If we really have to bring the Grand Secretary here, it will be even more embarrassing for you." Wei Hong shot me a fierce glare, but facing the sharp gazes of the old Marquis and the Marquess, he had no choice but to deflate. He turned and went back into the room. When he came out, there was a woman by his side. Seeing Wei Hong and the woman holding hands tightly, the old Marquis frowned. "Who is she?" Wei Hong's gaze darted around as he stammered. Her name is Meng Royan. She is the Shen family's." Seeing him unable to speak, I couldn't help finish for him. "Sister Meng is a sister my mother recently acknowledged. She's now registered under my grandmother's name and is my grandmother's adopted daughter." The Marquess looked confused. "King Yai, I visit your mother often. I've never heard her mention adopting a sister, and this girl looks young enough to be your older sister. Why would your mother adopt her as a sworn sister?" I smiled awkwardly. "Because Aunt Meng's status was truly not suitable for her to be my sister." The Marquess still didn't understand, but the old Marquis's face grew darker and darker. After a long moment, he looked up at Meng Royan and said, "When old Shen was alive, I heard him mention your name once after drinking. Tell me the truth. Who are you, and what is your relation with old Shen?" Meng Royan's face turned red, then white. She was utterly unable to speak. Seeing this, I pretended to help her out. "Lord Marquis, what was between my father and my stepmother is all in the past. Please don't pursue it any further. The young Marquis likes her. His study is full of her portraits. In a way, it's a story of lovers finally getting together." "Shen King Yai, shut your mouth." Wei Hong knew I was fanning the flames, and his face instantly turned crimson with rage. But before he could continue, the old Marquis let out a sharp reprimand. "Wei Hong, you should shut up. Men, search the young Marquis's study and bedroom. Bring me all the portraits. I want to see for myself if what King Yai is saying is true." The Marquess collapsed to the ground with a thud. "Stepmother, King Yai, is this Miss Meng your father's replacement wife who never showed her face?" I quickly waved my hands. "My lady, don't worry too much. My mother and the Shen clan elders have already arranged for Aunt Meng's dismissal. She is no longer my stepmother, just my mother's sworn sister. She's free to marry." This was what I had asked my mother to help with. Upon hearing this, the Marquess cried even harder. At the same time, the servants brought in several chests of portraits. Looking at the faceless paintings, Wei Hong found an excuse to argue. "Father, mother, don't listen to Shen King Yai's nonsense. She had a change of heart and doesn't want to marry me, so she's deliberately framing me. In truth, all these portraits are of her." The old Marquis and the Marquess looked at the faceless paintings, unsure who was telling the truth. At this stalemate, a servant brought in another painting. "My lord, I accidentally bumped into a hidden compartment in the young Marquis's study and found another painting inside, so I brought it over." The old Marquis unrolled the scroll, took one look, and immediately rolled it back. Then his old face flushed red and looked at Wei Hong in fury. "And how do you explain this painting?" Wei Hong's face turned deathly white. I wasn't surprised because I already knew what was in the painting. When I went to the study that day to sound Wei Hong out, I had noticed the hidden compartment. After leaving, I bribed the servant who had just delivered the painting. He took a gold ingot from me, found an opportunity to sneak into the study, and later told me the contents of the painting. That's right, it was an erotic painting of Wei Hong and Meng Royan. Only then did I know that they had had a secret affair for a long time, but due to the ethical taboo, they couldn't be together openly. That was why Wei Hong was so insistent on marrying a daughter of the Shen family, so he could frequently visit the Shen manor and meet with Meng Royan. With this leverage, my mother did as I said, taking Meng Royan's only brother hostage to force her to marry in my place. That was why Meng Royan had been so cooperative during the wedding procession. This time, the old Marquis and the Marquess had no choice but to believe. The Marquess beat her chest. What a sin! My perfectly good son! How did he let his mind be bewitched by such a vixen? My lord, what are we to do? If this gets out, not only will Honger be disgraced, but our Marquess's manor will never be able to hold its head high. Wei Hong knew there was no point in arguing. He dropped to his knees with a thud. Father, mother, you know how serious this is. Don't be so quick to blame me. Just listen to me. Detain Shen Ping Yai. The bride was veiled yesterday anyway. No one knows who it was. As long as our family insists that the bride was Shen King Yai, no one can say otherwise, right? The old Marquis hesitated. But King Yai said she was dining with Grand Secretary Lin and his wife yesterday. Wei Hong said